It's a victory Monday. Let's go. That's Justin's happy face on Wisconsin. Let's talk about the win.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every day. He is Justin. I am Ryan, Bucky Report, and Locked On. Today's episode brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to PrizePicks.com/LockedOnCollege. Use the code LockedOnCollege for the first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Justin, we got to win. That means we have to play our happy.
This is awesome. It's a good day for me. Come on in here, buddy. Get up on that line.
I don't know. That's what we're going to go with for our happy one. Again, I was talking to Justin after the show last time. They get up on here on that line. It sounds actually a little creepy when you hear it play. I thought it was
yes,
like,
it does.
Jump on the phone line. Let's talk about it was where I was going with it. It's not my voice, obviously. So anyway, that's what we're going to roll with until we find something better.
Don't let the neighborhood kids stop by that guy's house for candy on Halloween. I'm just saying.
That's what we're going to roll with for now. Listen, the Badgers win a big non-conference game. That's a quad one win. Virginia ranked 24th in the country, 4-0. And Wisconsin handled them, like absolutely crushed them.
Well, first thing I want to say with this is this is exactly what our previous couple of teams could not do, which is separate from a team that's a decent team. And they 100% did it. This team played defense that I did not know they had in them this year. Like, if this is what the level of defense is, and one of the takeaways that I had from this, and you give me your thoughts on it, Virginia is exactly the type of team that this Wisconsin team is built to beat up on, because I think we actually are a very good offensive team, especially in half court. And I think that the teams we're going to struggle with are going to be teams that really want to push the tempo and will play aggressive and athletic. And it's not that this team isn't athletic. It's that when they get rushed and sped up, it's harder to lock in on defense, and you're going to give up more things easily. And that's something that this team is going to struggle with, because while they are more athletic and better scorers, they're not a team that's really adept at attacking the rim.
Yeah, I think there's something to that. I said this after the Providence game too, and I said, let's not overreact too much to an out-of-conference game early in the season. I would say the same thing about this one. Let's not.
That team got shell-shocked. Like, Wisconsin played them 10 times. I bet you the games would be much tighter after the first.
Probably. But I bet you if this game was played 10 times, these games would be closer too.
Oh, it would. But I mean, Providence isn't that much better than Wisconsin.
I don't think so.
We were caught off guard by the level of aggression and activity that we saw in that game.
I would agree with that, but I think it's the same argument both ways. I mean, we're not a 25-point better team than Virginia. No. I just think I do think we're better though. After watching this game.
Yeah,
I listen, I think we probably are. But I do want to find one of the things I would hope to – we're not going to get the answer, but I would love to talk to you tonight. And if you're in the chats, I want to talk to you tonight about that as well. What is the real Wisconsin? Because we were talking about this, and I agree with your point. Wisconsin is kind of built against the Virginia. I think it will look better against a team like that. But we've had a couple games where the defense has been a big issue for this team. And then we have a team tonight where they were on fire. They were playing really well. They were handling the pick and roll great. I want to talk about Hepburn a little bit. Justin, who do you think is the real Badgers, though?
Well, I think this one can be broken down simply in energy level. Like, if they're going to be engaged and show the energy that they played with tonight, they can play with anybody and beat anybody in the country. If they have some of the other games that we've had this year where they don't seem as engaged on defense, they get beat off the dribble. They're not as active. They're slow to react, and they can get beat by teams. And my fear with this team is, because I do think they'll score the entire season, is that there's going to be games where they get kind of lazy and lax on defense because they're scoring well, and they're going to let teams hang around that they shouldn't, when they should be putting them away because they're not locking down on defense as much as they should be because they're scoring efficiently.
Yeah. No, I think you saw that. I think you saw it in week one. I think you saw that against Arkansas State. They did exactly that. They were scoring so easily. They let Arkansas State do whatever they wanted to, almost like. Let's talk a little bit about I want to start with one player that really stuck out to me this game, and then I want to kick it to you, and then I just want to take a bunch of comments. Honestly, I didn't really do a lot of preparing for the show because I've been driving, but I watched the game. But the one player I want to talk about, it's Hepburn in this game, because I think if you look at the box score, you see Hepburn hit one shot, 2 points, what people don't necessarily see is 6 assists, no turnovers.
3 points.
Oh, 3 points. My bad. Yep. He hit that 3. Yep. But that's the only shot he hit. But it was 6 assists, no turnovers. I thought he was feeding Crowd the entire night. I thought he had a great tempo in the game. And defensively, he was excellent. He was navigating pick and roll. He went basically he couldn't get picked tonight, and he really shut down that part of Virginia's offense. I thought he was great tonight, even though he didn't shoot it well.
His assist numbers have skyrocketed this year, and that's because they have a lot more guys on the court that can help him. You could tell he's far more comfortable in his role with this team, where he doesn't have to be as aggressive from a scoring standpoint. He could just kind of take what's there. I think that this is what it's built for. Like, there are guys who are more comfortable in there, but there's the level of control that Chucky has, and the level of control you and I were talking about it with Blackwell, are guys that just don't. If you get them in the right situation, they don't force things. They don't take bad shots. They don't do stupid things, and that is a really dangerous thing when you're any other team. If you're not playing that way, because what happens is it's kind of like the movie Rounders, where he's just hanging around. They're hanging around, and they keep doing this stuff where it's like you're waiting for him to make a mistake, and you make the mistake because you get tired of waiting for them to do something stupid, and so you do something stupid.
Great movie reference, by the way. Excellent movie reference. Give me the players. So I talked about Hepburn. Give me the one player that really stuck out to you in this game.
He didn't score well, and he's still having some struggles with efficiency, but his activity in this game really stood out to me. Much better rebounding than we've seen from him in any other game. Was really active, made a couple of really nice passes in this game, and he didn't try to do too much. And I think that if he can get to that where he just makes the plays that are there, he's going to be really good this season.
It's interesting. I want to talk about Store a little bit, because I actually had a slightly different take, although I agree with you on the boards. I thought he was more active going after. He had a really nice offensive rebound. I thought he was more active in that sense. I actually thought that there was a stretch, and I shouldn't judge the whole game off this stretch, where he had a really bad pass that went for a turnover. Like, you can tell he doesn't quite have that feel for the passes all the time. And then on the defensive side, the next time he missed a rotation on a pick and roll, which led to an easy dunk, came back and threw another turnover, and then immediately kind of came out of the game. So I think there's moments where, to your point, you can see it clicking, and then there's still moments where he looks like he doesn't quite gel with this group yet.
He's much more of an athlete than he is a basketball player at this point. And I say that because, much like you talk about football players who are guys that just kind of get it when they're out on the field, Storr is a guy who is he's getting by on his athleticism at this point, and the mental aspect of basketball is something that he's not super refined with at this point. The instincts aren't there. Yeah, I do too. He's got a nice stroke from the outside. He needs to hit that more often. If he does, he really adds a lot, because if they have somebody that can stash in the corner that's also capable of coming in and getting put back dunks or driving off the baseline, that's something this team hasn't had in a really long time.
Well, and then there's Steven Crowell, right? I mean, 15 and 10 he had a great first half. Hit a 3, 10, really set the tone on the offense, and then they couldn't handle him. So the doubles came, passed out of it. He had 1 or 2 turnovers out of that, but he also hit a couple threes, on a couple open players for those threes. That's the best Steven Crowell game we've had all year by far.
Yeah, it's not close. He abused the guy from Virginia. Is it Buchanan?
Yeah, they tried a couple people, and then they started doubling them. And honestly, if I'm Bennett, I just say, Steven Crowell, continue to beat me one-on-one if you can do it. I'm not going to double you.
Yeah, based off what we've seen from him in his career, that's exactly how I would do it too. He's just not consistent enough a finisher at the rim for me to double on him. And I do think that Wisconsin, not last year, but this year, has enough guys who are plus outside shooters. You don't want to get too crazy with that, because I do trust Klesmit, Chucky, Blackwell, Storr are all guys who are capable of being upper 30s at least in 3-point shooting.
I agree there. There's more weapons this year. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Justin, if you don't mind, find some comments that you want to jump into the next segment. Whatever you think is interesting, we'll dive into that next. But I do want to take a quick break for our friends of the show over at LinkedIn. Listen, Justin knows this. We know this because we're college fans. Every potential, you need the right pieces on your team to build a championship contender. And these days, every potential hire feels like a high-stakes wager. That's why LinkedIn Jobs is there. I've talked about my story about my company almost hiring an axe murderer and then not hiring him. If they had used LinkedIn with their screening tools, that guy doesn't make it through the door, right? they didn't use LinkedIn, so they almost hired Chucky the Axe Murderer. I don't actually remember his first name, but that was a crazy dude. So use LinkedIn, find the right people for your team for the first time. And that's why small businesses continue to rate LinkedIn Jobs as the #1 job hiring platform compared to competitors. Now go to linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, let's get back to the show. Justin, throw some comments up there, man. That makes sense.
Yeah, sure. I'll throw this one up from John Berger first. UVA was awful, 32% field goal percentage, 28% from 3, 4 of 4. I'm assuming is free throws. And then 19 rebounds. I thought they had 21 rebounds total. We had 20 offensive against them. So it's 40. We out rebounded them 48-21. Both teams were really ineffective shooting in the first half. I think we were 30%. They were 24. So the defense was good in this game. It's just Wisconsin was more efficient on offense. And you could see it. This is one of those games where you talk about it and you could see the level of efficiency on offense from Wisconsin. Like the passing, there was crisp passing. Guys weren't over dribbling. There was a lot of movement that we saw from players on the court. Guys were cutting. Guys were attacking the offensive boards for plays. Wisconsin pulled away in this one because of their aggressiveness in the offensive rebounding. Like that was a big aspect of them. Second opportunities were huge in this game.
And let's be real. Like, so we talked about this again in the Providence game. We talked about it in the Robert Morris game when Robert Morris was shooting the lights out. Defense matters. Like you don't just shoot 32% in a vacuum. You shoot 32% because people are closing out, because shots are contested, because you're being forced into late clock situations. Virginia had a couple open looks from 3, but for the most part, Wisconsin did a great job contesting.
We closed out really well on them.
Yeah, those are hard shots. If you go in the gym, you're going to shoot a higher percentage. Why? Because people aren't playing defense on you. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with John. They missed some open shots, but I would say that was reflective of Wisconsin's defense.
It was. We were very good defensive in this game. Bo Dragon, Blackwell was still the spark plug. He is, in my opinion, he is their guy who is their center for this team. Like I look at him as the guy. Yes, he's the gravity of this team. Like the way he plays just seems to be captured by everybody else. Like he's a spark plug in that it seems to ground everyone else and get everyone on the same page when they're out on the court. And you look at it and everything just seems to run so smoothly when he's out there. And he's so adept at attacking the rim. Like a couple of those plays, he just does not settle. Like he doesn't throw himself into bad shots. He gets to the rim and he'll get fouled or he's going to end up finishing. And he didn't shoot well. Like he wasn't super efficient offensively tonight, but he was 2 of 3 from 3. And he attacked the rim and he was 4 for 4 from the line.
Yep. Well,
if you take 7 shots and you score 10 points, that's not a terrible night. Like you want to score better than that, but it's not a terrible night. And especially for a young player, like this has been his worst game from an efficiency standpoint, and you'd still take it.
He still needs to play more. Like he's got to be in the 20s. He had 18 minutes tonight. The fun thing with Blackwell, man, is he can play with anybody. You can put him out there with any lineup, and it works with John Blackwell. Any lineup. Right, because
he's a plus defender, and he's not a guy who demands the ball. He's a low usage guy,
but he's a low usage guy that you can put in the corner, hit open threes. He's a low usage guy that can set up other players. He's a low usage guy who can get to the rim. Yeah. Plus, he plays defense. Plus, he plays hard. Like I'm telling you, he's a potential stud. Like, well, I mean, honestly, I'm not trying to.
No, he is a stud, and the reason why I'll say that is he is a guy who can get you an easy 15. And I mean that he's a guy who can get you 15 on 8 shots. And you look at that, that's a huge deal for a team because that's a guy who's going to be ultra productive, but not require the ball a lot, which means that he can be the guy that you don't have to focus on constantly feeding to make plays, which means you can have other guys who are a little bit more selfish out there with him, and he can still be very productive and carry you. And that's kind of what Blackwell does when he's out there. There are stretches where he carries this team right now at times, and you look at it and you're like, well, he's not taking a ton of shots, but he's taking the shots that are there when he touches the ball. And because of that, he's not a guy who's wasting possessions. And that's where some of the other guys aren't as, clean or efficient as he is. That's going to help Wisconsin this whole season. He's going to single-handedly maybe win us 2 or 3 games this year because of the fact that he doesn't throw possessions away. Like when he gets the ball, he does something positive every time.
He looks that's a great point because he plays like an upperclassman. I mean, and give him a couple more years to strengthen his body even a little bit more, develop those skills.
No, it get more explosive.
He's gonna be
a problem in the Big Ten.
He's gonna be an all Big Ten player. Like I'm telling you right now, I'm calling that now. Like I don't think I need to see more. I'm not saying it happens this year.
I think his ceiling, he has an opportunity to be a guy who can get into the All-American type conversation by the time he's done. And I say that because I think he's going to score. Like his instincts are there based off of what we've seen. He's not really putting up a ton of shots right now, and he's in double digits every game.
Yeah. By the way, someone mentioned once I flipped my hat around. Sometimes I just have frenetic energy and I can't help it. Easton Park says, John, I'm going to rip through a couple of these Blackwell comments quick because he's the star of the chat. Easton Parks, John Black's my new favorite Badger.
He's easy to like.
Blackwell looks really, really good. Tyler Strieber, Blackwell's the best player we have right now. Not a whale says
I think that's an argument for sure.
I have him at 2. I haven't I know Hepburn can run hot or cold, but he does such a good when he's a pure point guard when it's really working.
Yeah.
And again, there's not a lot of guys who go out against Virginia, like a Virginia defense, and have 6 assists and no turnovers. That just doesn't happen a lot.
So here's what I'll say on that. Chucky, it's expected. Blackwell, like he's the kind of catalyst, I would say, in a way. You expect Chucky to hit certain number or metrics. You have no idea what to expect from Blackwell, and that's why you look at it like I was expecting him to have 6 or 7 minutes a game coming into the season. Mm-hmm. Now I look at it and I'm like, you could be looking at him as like what we saw Connor do last year. He could do that and more. Like it wouldn't shock me to see him end the season at 12 or 13 points per game because he's consistently in double digits already now. And he's not requiring a lot of sets run for him or anything like that. He just is making plays. And he plays he's there to clean up things. He gets garbage points. Mm-hmm. Like there's not a lot of guys that we've had recently that are guys that attack the offensive boards and stuff like that and get putbacks. He had one that got taken away on that shot clock violation. I was like, man, that stinks. Because I'm like so close.
I for a second thought it was an end one.
Yeah.
Randy says, careful with predictions, Ryan. Your track record's not that good. Listen, Randy.
Mine is.
Listen, Randy. I'll say this: people only remember the ones you get wrong. I'll say that. There's been hits too. I don't want to hear that nonsense. I'm just kidding, man. Thanks for jumping in the chat, Randy. A couple more comments here that I want to get into. This one I thought was good. There's a couple with the Carter Gilmore. Oh, let's go Connor. Yeah, if you want to jump to Connor next.
Yeah, John Burns. What about Connor, fellas? You know what? I don't know what to make of this right now. Here's the deal. He was injured. I do think there's something to the fact that Gard is being ultra cautious with him because he doesn't need to force it right now. The team is playing really well with Blackwell out there, and Blackwell is kind of taking those minutes and running with them right now. And it may not play out this way the entire season, but you don't have a reason to force Connor out there until he's playing well in practice and proves that he deserves to be out there. Now, at some point we will. There's going to be a couple of games this year where Connor's going to flat out go flamethrower for us and probably single-handedly win us a game. Yeah, I still think he's got it, man. I don't know if he's going to be as consistent as he was last year, obviously, but I think there's going to be a couple of games where he puts up 15 where you're like, he hit 4 threes and did some nice things offensively and got us in really good spots when somebody's not playing well.
I hope so. It's starting to feel like this could potentially be a bit of a wash season. It's early, but so it's hard, right? Because your point is correct. He hasn't hit a 3 yet. Connor hasn't hit a 3 yet, and Greg Gard, you got to win these games. You can't afford to have somebody out there who's not playing great defense and also not hitting shots. On the other side, though, and I don't think this was necessarily the game, Justin, but I don't know. It's tough. You got to also find he's kind of a streaky guy. You got to find some minutes somewhere to get him into rhythm.
Well, tonight it should have happened. When we got up by a ton, he should have been out there. You should have had him. Not play him a minute right before you bring in the second set of stops. That was kind of a slap in the face.
I thought that was silly.
He was out there for literally 45 seconds.
And then they're like, no, you have to, if you got a guy like Connor and you're going to play him, if he's just not going to play because he's not 100%, that's one thing. But if you're going to play him, you got to at some point let him try to get into rhythm.
Yeah. Because
4-minute stretches aren't going to do it.
No, not really. I mean, he's going to get 1 or 2 shots probably in that time frame, and it is what it is. His defense, he might be able to clean up a little bit, but you're not going to get anything offensively unless you're going to run sets for him.
Yeah, and there's a lot of comments in here. Connor struggles guarding people. He doesn't play good defense. Agreed. But he didn't last year.
To be fair, we have no idea what he can do defensively this season because he was injured almost instantly. So
we did say at the beginning of the Arkansas State game, even when he was healthy, he was already getting toasted a little bit. Yeah, but that is a
really nice cuts in that too. But so yeah, I think he's better probably than he was last year. He's going to be a guy that gets hunted still. Him and Storr both are. They just are. But there are some really good defensive guards that this team has too. Like people are talking about having Chucky Blackwell and McGee out there at the same time. Those are three guys that can be a problem defensively on the perimeter.
Yeah. The only issue with that is you can't play a big backcourt. Like you can't, obviously you can't run that lineup out if the other team is a 6'4" guard. But aside from that,
I mean, you can if you have Blackwell on them, but yeah, you can't do it with anybody else.
It's true. All right, let's take one more quick break, and then honestly, let's just continue bang through comments. I do want to touch on Winter a little bit. And then the rest of the show is just your comments, wherever you guys want to go, wherever Justin wants to go with it. Again, this is a good win. Let's enjoy it. But first, let's take one more quick break for our friends of the show. Justin, definitely if you see any other comments you want to jump into. I want to talk a little bit about our friends of the show over at PrizePicks. Listen, I talked about PrizePicks again. Like it can be really tough and exhausting to compete in daily fantasy if you're trying to make money against thousands of people that are just crunching numbers all day and finding the glitches in the matrix. Like that's not really even enjoyable. PrizePicks takes that away. You just pick between 2 and 6 players over under in statistical categories. Like maybe you want to make some money, so you pick Brock Purdy. That's what I do. It doesn't always work, but but listen, it's fast, it's quick, it's easy. You make your picks and you can be out in 60 seconds. They have Apple Pay, so it's quick and it's secure, incredibly easy to use. PrizePicks is the fastest growing daily fantasy platform in North America. For that reason, go to PrizePicks.com/LockedOnCollege. Use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks.com/LockedOnCollege. Code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks daily fantasy sports made easy. All right, let's jump back into this, Justin. I have comments. You got any other comments you want to get into here? Let's go.
Yeah, Tyler Strieber. I like the way Winter shoots the three. He made one tonight, and he has a couple. He's also made a couple others. Can't wait for Blackwell to run that pick and pop. Winter is a plus scorer. I will tell you that right now. I think that they need to get him as many minutes as they can early in this season because you want him by tournament time to be a guy who's a legit backup coming in tournament games. And I think he's capable of being that. He's capable of being a guy who pops off for 12 or 15 in a game where we need somebody to pick up the pace because he is more athletic than Crowell and he's a better shooter than Crowell. He has a lot of upside as a scorer.
Yeah, the only problem with Winter is you can tell he's either thinking a little too much. It's just not fully there.
He's not fluid yet. And that's why he needs the reps. Like he needs to get comfortable out there so it becomes second nature for him.
And then defensively, against more physical teams, he's going to get manhandled a little bit. I mean, Crowell gets manhandled a little bit.
But that's why he needs to be out there so that he can get used to it and learn to fight through it.
I love the upside. Like I love his stroke. I think he needs to shoot it more. There was a couple times where he had the ball and he just swung it. And speaking of that, that's another thing that drives me nuts with this team. Hepburn passes up open threes. Crowell will get it and not even look at the rim. Winter will pass it up occasionally. You got to shoot when you're open. Kamari McGee's done it.
Where the situation where Chucky ended up hitting his three, I think Blackwell drop down into the corner on that one and it was wide open. Like the defense had jumped up. They had two guys chase up top. I believe they had two guys chase up top and I'm sitting there. I'm like, oh my God, he's sitting there by himself in the corner. Like somebody hit him. And it ended up working out anyways, because they completely just butchered the pick and roll that we had on them there. And they couldn't chase Chucky down and he ended up getting a wide open look anyways. But yeah.
That was definitely a shot he dribbled into though, which I like seeing. Like Hepburn has to shoot. I know there's some comments about,
I was fine with it. I didn't, Chucky was not watching tonight. I had no problem with the shots that he was taking. Even Blackwell wasn't efficient tonight. I look back and there were a couple of shots that were slightly tougher, but he did a really good job of creating separation on him, like a couple of fades in the lane and stuff like that. I'm like, I'm fine with the shot. Like that's a shot that in a year or two, he's going to hit almost every time.
The only thing I don't like with shot selection is Gabe Ramos nailed it. The Chucky off the dribble three at the top of the key was kind of, that barely hit the rim. That was a beautiful shot. Barely hit the net. I mean, it was beautiful. Chucky still takes a couple of those, and it was in the chat too. A couple of those baseline kind of turnaround.
Yeah, I don't like that shot. We've talked about that before. I don't like most NBA guys taking that shot. Kevin Durant's the only guy I've watched that can consistently just sit there and drop that on people. And I'm just like, this is disgusting. This guy's shooting like 60% from the baseline.
Yeah. But aside from that, I agree with you. I tonight was a great game, but now you got to build on it and you got to be consistent. Like you have to stack these up because we've seen inconsistency from this team and people were bailing after Providence. And now suddenly those same people are going to be Final Four after this game.
This team's going to be a good team. Like if they grow and the defense, if they hang their hat on defense, this team is capable of making an Elite Eight. I think they'll score enough based off of what we've seen. And I actually think teams are going to struggle with them if they continue to pass like this and run their offensive sets the way they are, because they're going to really irritate teams that are trying to force them into mistakes. And I think that they're capable. We have good ball handling. Like Blackwell's a plus ball handler. You don't want him you don't want him breaking the press, but in a half court set, I have no issue whatsoever with him dribbling. I have no issue with Chucky dribbling. McGee looks far better this year. He seems much more comfortable. And if you have three guys like that are out there that are capable of moving, and Klesmit, all of those guys you're comfortable with having the ball. And if somebody's trying to pressure them, being fine. And if teams are going to get really pressure heavy on them in the half court sets, they're going to get easy shots, because what's going to happen is they're going to continue to make the pass, because this team does look like they're a good passing team.
Connor DeBryce, this is a good comment here. 1.2 points per possession against Virginia. That's really good. Ball movement and feeding the post. Solid defense all night. This needs to be our identity.
Have we seen the advanced stats on this team in terms of points per possession this season? It's got to be well north of 1.
Yeah, I'll dig it up. I haven't got it yet. This one,
they've been good in every game.
I agree with Tyler in this one. I thought Wahl was terrible in the first half from an offensive standpoint. Tyler Stieber says Wahl, oh my gosh, God, his first half was garbage. Regrouped in the second, he did play better. So you and I have talked about Wahl a lot. I've always been a little higher on him, but he needs to know when it's not working.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of store in him, and that he just, there's certain times where he thinks he should take up a shot where you're looking at him, you're like, this is not the possession we need that shot. Like, I get what you're trying to do and why you want to do it, because you think you're capable, but every one of you guys to some extent is capable. It's knowing when the right moment is to take a shot like that. And most of the time it's not. Don't force it. Like, especially the back downs where you waste 20 seconds on offense. Like, that to me is a bad possession, because you completely stagnated everyone else on offense if you just sit there and back somebody down. Now, if you get it on the block and somebody passes into you in position already, every time I want him trying to work his man in that position.
Agreed.
But you can't waste the time building up to that, because it allows not only that, it allows the defense to react. Like, you're getting down there, somebody's going to help in the center, and you're going to end up having to, spin baseline and flip something up. And in more times than not, it's not going to be a great shot.
So here's the tricky part, though, Justin, because Wahl had 10 boards. He's really good defensively. Like, you almost need him out there for those other aspects of the game. Because who are you coming in for him with? Gilmore? And then your offense goes 4 and 5.
He was fine. Like, I don't have an issue with it. Like, the rest of the guys on the offense are, for the most part, like, he hasn't pushed it to the point where it's a problem. So everyone else has, for the most part, been fairly efficient so far this season. And as long as that's the case, I don't have a problem with him throwing up a couple of shots where I'm like, whatever. The threes in the last game again, or in the one game, that needs to be gone. Like, just understand that's like Giannis jacking up threes in the NBA. Yeah. Like, just know what your strengths are, and just stop forcing things because you think that will make it better. Because unless you're doing it at a high level, you're hurting more than you're helping.
Well, and you're open for a reason. That's scouting reports from the defense. Like I said, defensively, though, he's just really versatile, and he's such a good rebounder, and he can handle the ball. He's a pressure release for guards, like bring the ball to court. Like, you need him out there. He just has to be more efficient. That first half was really bad.
And you can't cover him with a traditional power forward because he's quicker and more athletic than other guys.
Thoughts on I'm not there yet, but Mikey says starters need to be Chucky, Blackwell, Storwall, Klesmit coming off the bench. McGee would be a lot of minutes off the bench. I like Blackwell off the bench, but I don't really care if he starts. I guess is my bigger point, but he needs to play 20-something minutes.
I don't love some of the rotations that he's getting thrown into. Like, there was a point tonight where I'm looking at it, and it was McGee, Blackwell, Gilmore. I think Winter was out there, and I'm trying to remember who the fifth guy was. And I'm like,
that's a tough lineup.
This is not a line. Like, you're putting a lot of pressure on Blackwell to do positive things in this group, because nobody else is really an offensive threat. Winter's not there yet. So it's basically McGee and Blackwell that you're counting on to do something positive. And that's where Blackwell is going to struggle. When you have guys that are going to be helping off onto him, like he's really good offensively one-on-one. I don't know if he's mentally there yet to understand what he needs to do when he's getting doubled up on, because he wasn't seeing that in high school. Like that's not something he's seen a ton of. I'm sure he'll grow into that role and be really good at it, but he hasn't seen a lot of it yet.
Doug and Kristen Show says Winter's soft, couldn't finish it, give me put back. What the heck am I seeing? He hasn't guarded the pick and roll all year. Give me a break. So I agree defensively. Winter has had lots of issues.
Which is why he needs to be out there, because unfortunately you're going to have to go through the growing pains with him. Mm-hmm. Like your payoff here is by season's end, come tournament time, you need him to be sharpened up and hardened enough that he's a guy that can provide time. Because we could have a game where Crowell gets 2 fouls in the first 5 minutes in a tournament game.
Agreed.
Do you really want to have Gilmore out there the whole time? I don't. I want somebody that provides an offensive threat.
Gabe Ramos says Klesman was aggressive and awesome tonight. It was nice.
He was much improved.
Like he needed it because he's had a couple games now. He had a tough three. He had a tough shot off the dribble near the shot clock. Drove in, finished really nicely, and he's always pretty good defensively. So I agree with that comment there. I think let's kind of wrap it up here. But Justin, any last thoughts, takes, anything that we didn't hit on that's still rattling out in your brain there?
I think the big thing for me is this is the type of game we've really struggled to have in the last few years, and Wisconsin needs to find some of these. Last season, we kind of ended with a whimper, and a big part of the reason why is because we could never give ourselves an easy game. And that wears the team down as it goes on. Like those are stressful situations. You're wasting a ton of extra energy where you could have the last 5 minutes of the game where you have your starters basically sitting. And that's what your goal is with this team. And I think this team will score enough that it's going to happen. Like I think this is a team capable of being in the top 3 or 4 in the Big Ten. And I think that's because if they play defense, they're going to score more than most of the teams in the Big Ten. I don't think it's a super strong league this year. I don't think that we can necessarily hang with a team like Purdue, but I think that everybody else, they're capable of causing problems for.
Yeah, I'm pretty optimistic. I mean, again, it's early. Like I would caution people not to overreact. Just like I said after the Providence game, I would caution people not to overreact to this one either. Like there's still a lot to be determined, but I think it's a deeper team, which I like. Brian Kruger says lots of bench players competing for minutes. That's a good sign. Mm-hmm. You mentioned McGee. I do need to point out, we had several comments, Justin. Greatest dunk in Badger hit since Khalil Iverson. Is it that putback slam?
It wasn't even a total like clean slam. So no. It was like the guy who like got the tip and then like his hands dragged off the rim.
Oh,
like listen, it's probably his greatest highlight ever. And I will take that, and he can own that. It was a big moment. But Carter Gilmore, he deserves to have something positive happen to him, because he's a guy who is much maligned in his Badger, his historical time. So I'm glad he had something positive happen for him.
Absolutely. Like, listen, he plays his ass off. Offensively, like it is a problem. I continue to say that's just me being honest. Yeah. Teams.
We're not trying to bash him. He is a guy that other teams don't respect offensively.
But
they won't until he proves it.
That putback slam was awesome. So I definitely got to give him some hype there. Aside from that, it's a great win, guys. Enjoy the win. Big win. Yeah. That's a quad 1 victory.
Chance to win a tournament to start the season here, as they're going to be playing, I think, West Virginia. I haven't looked at the score recently. Maybe SMU. Let's say it's on TV here right now for me. I can tell you in a second.
Really, really quick. I'm going to end on this. And if you're in the chat, let me know.
It's like SMU.
He scored 5 more points than Justin's first love Connor Season tonight. It's true. Listen, hey, what's the best dunk that you can?
I haven't seen. Wait, what?
What's the best dunk? And I'm going to end on this because obviously I'm saying facetiously.
Best dunk.
But the best dunk that you can the most impressive to me, it's Khalil Iverson. If you remember, he caught that from Brad Davison, I think it was, went behind the head, alley-oop reverse.
I believe in one of our tournament games, it was they blew the whistle, and I believe I saw Decker go up under the leg and dunk one.
Ooh.
When it was just like a dead play. And I was like, okay, I knew you were athletic. I didn't know you were that athletic. And I was like, all right, that's impressive. Other than that, I would say there was a couple of times. There was one of the games against MSU back when Devin Harris was playing here, where him and Tucker hooked up. That one that MSU hates us for because it's late, where the victory was already locked down.
Yeah,
and they threw it up for the alley-oop. That one was a big one.
Yep. And Evan says Tucker had some sweet dunks back in the day. Randy says fun show tonight. Now, thank you everybody for tuning in. John Berger says Finley dunked from the free throw line. Enough said. Not in a game, he didn't.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's the best. He's the best dunker in Wisconsin history.
I didn't mean to say that so angrily. Sorry, John.
And he was in a dunk contest in the NBA. I mean, that tells you all you need to know about his athleticism. Yeah. We have not had a guy on that level that has been at this school since.
Ryan Evans had pretty nice dunks. Showalter dunks were goated. Decker reverse alley-oop from Frank. Yeah, like I'm gonna post the Khalil one because I think that's the best one I can think of. But we'll have like a competition. We'll figure out the best one ever. Oh, Johanna, here it is. Jim Leonard. Blend on that one. All right, guys. On Wisconsin, Justin, thank you as always for joining us. We are smarter because he is here. Go check him out on the Bucky Report over there. And aside from that, on Wisconsin, guys, we'll talk again tomorrow. Really fun show coming up this week. We'll have a verbal commitment on that we haven't been able to get on yet, so that one's going to be exciting. Stick around for that one. On Wisconsin, we'll talk later.